This video will contain spoilers. Just FYI, while I was at the cinema, I had popcorn like you do, and a kernel is lodged somewhere in my mouth, and it is it it's annoying when it gets in your teeth and shit. This is a hell of a lot more annoying because it's so far back I can't pick at it with my teeth or with my finger, or I'm gonna gag. Hell, I've gagged a couple times trying to just cough it out. Like I've tried coughing it out. I've tried drinking a lot and having like one big gulp, and so far nothing. I don't know if it's gonna affect like me talking and shit, but it's just in case it does. That's the reason why I'm a bit weird today. Anyway, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Negative rating. Disney Plus original series. Watch it on Disney Plus. Charlie Cox, Hugh Dancy, Zach Cherry, Carrie Walgreen, Eugene Bird, Paul F. Tompkins. I have a reaction video to the trailer for the show, and in that I said that the animation does not look good. That the comic book style, it doesn't fit a motion picture. Like when it's just comics where it's fine, but when it's moving, it isn't. Watching the actual show itself, it's not terrible. Anyway, um, like I said in that video as well, I think they kind of forget that they're part of the MCU because there are some things that just don't seem right. um, I'll probably repeat myself if I say anything from that video, so I'm not going to. The guy that voices Spider-Man, he he's 31 years old, which when you're a voice actor, there's plenty of voice actors that can sound young. I mean, Yuri Lowenthal, who voices the Insomniac Spider-Man, he's in his 50s. And yeah, Pete in that is in his 20s, not his teens. But he does, he sounds convincing. This guy sounds like he's a smoker. Like he's doing the best he can, but it's just, why did you hire him? He doesn't sound young enough. He doesn't sound young at all. Speaking of this guy, Hudson Thames, he said that he was worried the show was going to be woke, but then he said that actually it isn't woke. That is true. Based on the first episode and the first episode alone, and also the small part of episode 2 that I watched, like the closest thing we've gotten to woke in it is the race swapping on the Osborns. Yes, his best friend is gay, but that in itself is not woke. Especially since they don't outright sort of shove it in your face. They're a lot more realistic with it. I was about to say subtle, but it's not subtle, it's just realistic, where, you know, Pete fancies this girl and his best friend does as well. And she says, if you don't ask her out, I will. So that's all there is to it. Not woke. Common Domingo does a good job at doing Osborn. Not that I've listened too much of him because he hasn't been in it much at the point that I'm at. Aunt May looks a lot older in this than she does in the MCU. Like, she has brown hair, but if she had white hair, she'd look exactly the same as comic May, which, I get the comic feel and all, but, they need to remember this is the MCU where Marissa Tomei plays May, and she was 53, and a very young looking 53 when she did Homecoming. This takes place a couple years before Homecoming, so let's put her age down to 50. And that said, young 50, very young looking 50. That they, like, the crow's feet and shit like that. What's up with that? I think the only other thing I have to say is that the theme song of the show, I understand that people aren't gonna like it, but there's something about it that I like. I don't know what it is. Love Hurts. Universally negative ratings. I watched it in cinema. Kike Kwan, Ariana DeBoss, Sean Astin, Miss Mustafa Shakir. um, for some reason, when Sean Astin's name appeared in the credits, I thought, like, yeah, I'm not surprised by that. And yeah, Sean Astin does fucking everything, but I don't get what it is that made me think, yeah, I'm not surprised by it. It's weird. Also, I do like that it's. I'm just gonna double check before I say anything. I just want to double check something because if I'm wrong, I'm gonna be labeled racist. I'm sure that they've been around each other in real life a lot, but I don't think there's anything that Sean Astin and Ki Hae Kwan have done together, like a film that they're starting together since the Goonies. So I do like that reunion. Speaking of Ki Hae Kwan's past, I don't know if this was intentional, but there was a bit where he got thrown into a fridge by some of the bad guys, and then they thrown the fridge. And it kind of seemed like it was a reference to Indiana Jones 4. I get he wasn't in that film, but it's. And I don't know if it's intentional or not, but I did like that throwback, if that's what it is. Um, I was thinking to myself that since this is an 87 North film, that the action is going to be quite good because it's made by actual stunt doubles rather than writers who don't know what they're writing about. And it kind of is. Some, like, this film is very fucking weird in the fact that it has the feel of, like, a direct to DVD movie, but the cinematography of, like, a masterclass director. Like, it's so fucking weird. I don't think I've ever felt a film do that before. As for the film itself, the hate is unjustified. It's not the best, but, like, at worst, it's a 6. And what, Rotten Tomatoes give what, a 21? Yeah, fuck off. 5.4 is also quite low. Like, even though it's only zero point 0.6 points off what I said it should be. 6 is the minimum for what it should be, not the max. So even that feels quite off from what it should be. Like, the action is decent. Um, the comedy is okay. It's not the best, but there are scenes that do remind me of Nobody and Violent Night, which they do say on the poster. Like, if you look at this, from the producers of those films. It was also it was quite short. It was only an hour and 20 minutes. It's like this is probably the shortest film I've ever seen. Like, I get that there are films that are an hour and a half, and I've seen plenty of 90-minute films, but I don't know. There's something about even though it's only a 10-minute difference, there's something about it that makes it seem like it's feature length. I don't know. Overall, underrated film, but you have much better options out there. Flight Risk. Universally negative ratings. Directed by Mel Gibson. I watched it in cinema with my dad. Mark Wahlberg, Michelle Dockery, Topher Grace. Um, this is Mel Gibson's first film in 9 years. I don't know if I've seen any of other films that he's directed. I know he did Hacksaw Ridge, but I haven't seen that yet. And I know he did Braveheart, but I haven't seen that, and I don't know if I ever will. Um, this film is also quite, like, I don't know how to feel about it. The ratings, the 5.5 and the 30, I think it was, they are unjustified. But Because really, the only problem with this film, and don't get me wrong, it is a big problem, and I never thought I would say this, but there's too much attempt to be funny. Topher Grace, Mark Wahlberg, and some of the other characters. I've just noticed that Mark Wahlberg has been credited as just the. I think that's just Google being Google, but that's funny because there was excuse my side rant, but there was a bit where Michelle is interrogating him and she asks, what's your real name, and he doesn't answer, and then later on he's about to kill her, and he's like, right, you want to guess my real name? I'll give you 3 guesses, and then later on she hits him and knocks him out. As like, no one cares about your fucking name. I thought that was quite good because there are quite a lot of like films that have the same sort of low quality feel as this, where they'll spend time trying to figure out irrelevant details like that. I don't remember where I was now. Oh, yeah, the Mark Topher and some of the characters that are only voiced, they're not like physically played. They're cracking jokes every 5 seconds. It's way, way too much. Some of it was funny, but it was like 10%. I would have thought that Mel Gibson would have known that when you get hit in the head by a fucking fire extinguisher and tased and shot with a flare, you die. Like, it's not just you're unconscious for 5 minutes, you fucking die. But no, the amount of times Mark Wahlberg gets injured in this film and doesn't die is ridiculous. And there are plenty of films, like, the majority of Hollywood films are like this, even the best ones out there. But this is over the top because, he gets tased, then he gets repeatedly punched all over the place, like head, body, legs, whatever, by Michelle. Then he gets shot with a flare gun, hit in the head with a fire extinguisher. Not even, at this point, he doesn't even have a fucking, excuse me, what's the word? That thing that you get when you get a head injury. I'm just gonna, I hope you know what I'm talking about. I'm just gonna move on. But then, like, still alive. And when they make the crash landing, he gets thrown out of the plane while it's going at a quite fast speed, and he hits like hard tarmac. He's still alive, gets run over by that's why I say hospital, an ambulance. Only when he gets hit by the ambulance does he fucking die. Like, blow my nose. If you like films like The Guilty, and when I say The Guilty, I'm talking mostly the Jake Gyllenhaal version of it because I have yet to see the original. If you like films like that, where not only is it like one location, but it's also you're trying to figure out things based solely on phone calls, I think you will quite enjoy the film. My opinion on it is that it is good, but it's just the unrealism of the violence and also the jokes and when I said 5 seconds, it's not much of an exaggeration. Um yeah, like, even though they are massive problems I have with the film, like they really bring it down, I still think that it is quite an enjoyable film.